A non-linear platformvania with over 100 different levels. Brutal difficulty that barely lets you breathe. 9 different transformations, all with their own unique abilities. And you have one of Sega's greatest games ever made, Kirby. No, I'm talking, of course, about Kid Chameleon. Released in 1992 in North America on the Sega Genesis, and later on that same year in Europe and Japan, Kid Chameleon was not a commercial failure, but was overshadowed by Sonic and other big IPs and went largely under the radar. Developed by Sega Technical Institute, a small American team, rare for Sega at the time, this was the same studio that developed many of the early Sonic games. Kid Chameleon was meant to showcase the technical potential of the Sega Genesis. It allowed for the massive level count and multiple mechanics. This isn't surprising when you look at who was in charge of the studio at the time. STI Studios was founded by Mark Cerny. Mark Cerny is a legendary game designer, programmer, and system architect who's been a major force behind some of the most important gaming hardware and software ever made. Today he's more known for being the lead architect behind the PS4 and PS5, so it's no wonder Kid Chameleon pushed so many technical boundaries at its time. STI was built to blend American creativity with Japanese precision, and Kid Chameleon was one of its earliest experiments. The dev team wanted to push the Genesis to its limit and ended up making a game that did exactly that. Kid Chameleon was built around a simple but wild idea, at least at its time. Give the player access to over 9 different forms, each with its own powers, and have them traverse through a maze of various biomes consisting of over 100 levels while attempting to reach the end stage and final boss. What made Kid Chameleon so special wasn't just this massive level count, it was the freedom. The game wasn't linear. Levels branched, looped, and hid secrets everywhere. You could warp ahead, backtrack, or stumble onto an entirely different route just by breaking the right block. The team aimed to create the longest platformer on the Genesis, which at the time it did. Add in the mask system where you transform into various forms, and every stage felt like a challenging playground. Programmer Steve Wata, who also worked on Sonic 2, pushed for the no battery save or passwords to keep production costs low and the challenge high. This ended up being the right move and helped shape the identity of the game. Like a lot of early 90s games, Kid Chameleon has a story, kind of. Basically, there's this new virtual reality arcade machine called the Wild Side. The final boss becomes sentient and starts trapping the players inside the game world of the VR machine. Naturally, no one decides to just shut the machine down. Instead, you're this random skater-looking kid. You step in as the hero. No name, no backup, just an attitude and some willpower. You dive into this insane VR world to defeat the boss, Heady Metal, and save the others who have been captured. The catch? You're not doing it as yourself. You take on a ton of different forms using magical masks scattered throughout the levels, and that's where Kid Chameleon actually gets interesting. While exploring the game's many non-linear paths and levels, you come across various masks, each with the ability to transform the player into one of the game's many forms. Similar to Kirby absorbing enemies, when our protagonist collects a mask, he's turned into the corresponding form. These transformations were unique and original and added real depth to the gameplay, and when I say unique, I mean it. The various forms included the normal form of Kid Chameleon. If Kid runs out of hit points while wearing any other mask, he reverts to this form. If Kid runs out of hit points in this form, he dies. In this form, he can grab onto ledges to pull himself up. Iron Knight can climb walls and ceilings. Juggernaut is a heavy armor tank that shoots skull projectiles. Red Stealth is a ninja samurai style mask, fast and agile. It attacks with sword slashes. Cyclone spins like a top, enabling high jumps and fast movement. It damages enemies by spinning into them and allows you to jump and climb using its Cyclone attack. Berserker wears a horned helmet. He can use his horns to charge through walls or foes while running. Basically, he's a rhino. Maniacs wears a hockey mask. This is basically Jason Voorhees with an axe. He throws an unlimited supply of these axes. Micromax has a fly head. He's half the size of the other transformations and able to fit into small places. He can also cling to walls, however he's slower and jumps lower. Cyclops wears a futuristic visor. He has a ray beam that can temporarily reveal hidden blocks. Skycutter wears a skating helmet, he rides on a hoverboard and can flip gravity upside down. Each one of these forms plays completely different from one another, and all of them must be utilized across the game's many stages to make it to the end in an almost Metroidvania style way. Each mask's form instantly providing some unique ability needed to clear whatever section. Scattered throughout the levels amongst these masks and many other items are diamonds. These are collectibles that increase Kid's diamond power. They differ in color depending on the stage in which they are found, but function identically. Kid can use powers at a cost of 20 or 50 diamonds, and they are activated by holding down the A and start buttons. In addition to these extra powers, there are secret attacks that can only be used by activating specific diamond powers with specific masks, leading to all new hidden abilities that I didn't even realize existed on my first playthrough. Mastering these masks is the key to progression though. The game's maze-like levels require you to actually pay attention. Kid Chameleon's level design is wild, dense, and honestly kind of unhinged in the best way. There's no overworld map, just this loose linear path that constantly gets broken up by hidden teleporters, secret exits, and warp tiles that might skip you ahead or drop you somewhere totally unexpected. Some levels are long, brutal gauntlets, others are just tiny warp hubs or copy-paste transition zones. Most stages scroll sideways, but a ton of them force vertical platforming. You'll go from forest and jungle stages early on to pitch black caves, cyberpunk tech zones, and bounce pads and spikes, lava-filled hellscapes that demand pixel-perfect jumps, and these surreal VR-style levels with invisible blocks and glitched-out layouts. There's even the occasional icy level thrown in near the end just to mess with you. The game's routing is so non-linear that no two playthroughs feel the same, and half the battle is just figuring out where the hell to go next, assuming you live long enough to try. It's not just the platforming and maze-like environments and traps that will set you back. Kid Chameleon's enemy design feels like a fever dream made from leftover assets, but in the best way possible. You've got floating eyeballs, robot skulls, evil clouds, hopping skull masks, little dudes in VR goggles, teleporting ninjas. It gets kind of crazy. It's like someone dumped a bunch of horror and sci-fi tropes into a blender and hit start. And each one of these enemies has their own unique element that means there is the right mask for every job and every monster. If I had to sum up Kid Chameleon's gameplay in 2 words, they'd be variety and uniqueness. From the ever-changing masks to the unpredictable level designs, the game constantly throws new mechanics and challenges at you in a way that still feels fresh even decades later. Kid Chameleon still holds up today because it's one of the most ambitious and creative platformers of its era. And I don't even know if I'd really call it a platformer. It's really more akin to a Metroidvania. The mask system adds real variety to the gameplay, each with its own playstyle. The enemy designs are weird and memorable, forcing you to think about which powers to use and when. And even though there's no save system and the game is brutally long, the sheer variety of levels, secrets, and power-ups keeps it feeling fresh. It's rough around the edges, but the core idea is still cooler than most of the indie platformers dropping today. Today, Kid Chameleon's mostly remembered as a cult Genesis classic. Not quite Sonic levels iconic, but absolutely beloved by fans who grew up with it or people who had it in their retro collections. It didn't get the spotlight it deserved back in '92, but honestly that's kind of what made it special. It was Sega at its weirdest, boldest, and most experimental. And honestly, I'd take that over another cookie-cutter mascot platformer any day. No nostalgia goggles are needed to enjoy this amazing original game. You can find it in many retro collections. It's even available on Nintendo's NSO services. I grew up with this game, and I was really happy to recently rediscover it, and I hope after hearing me yap about it, you guys go give it a chance too. This game honestly is something special. So that's it for me. I'm really happy if any of you actually made it to the end of this. I appreciate you watching. This was a really beloved game of mine during my childhood, and as I said, rediscovering it has honestly been a blessing. This game has so many interesting mechanics, and fundamentally just all the things that make up this game are so much fun. You don't really see anything like this today, and like I said, for that reason, I just wanted to make it its own video even. So if you guys heard me yap about this and it convinced you to play it, then maybe drop the video a like, please comment. Don't forget to subscribe if you guys want to see more stuff like this from me. And I think that's it. I love you all. I appreciate you all. I'm out.